Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritual Bougie Astrology, and we're going to be taking a look at the major astrological transits for August. August 1st through the 31st for August. Oh my gosh. But the thing about August is we're starting this month carrying some things over, carrying some existing energies that it takes us either partway into this month or it's going to be completely a part of this month. And one of those things happens to be Venus, and she's in retrograde. How are y'all feeling about Venus retrograde? I gotta be honest, like getting closer to the start of the retrograde, I felt petty. Just annoyed and petty every time I saw somebody and that ego just shooting out of their system. I'm like, man, I could humble you so quickly. But I'm gonna behave because I'm on a different path now, and I'm trying not to do that stuff so much. If you pay me to do it, I will happily do it, but I will do it astrologically. But this was not astrological. Like, a lot of times I just saw people like acting an ass. I was like, oh, well, that's fun. Venus's retrograde started on July 22nd, and it will be continuing all month. It will actually not end until September 3rd. So that means we're in the thralls of the retrograde. Venus is no longer spinning. She's moving, and she's moving backwards, and she's going back over things that she's already been dealing with since July, since June. We're going back over topics of the last 2 months as we continue through this month, but we're going back over them with new details and new information and new ideas and new funding. In some ways, some people have gotten some funding. But there's definitely something that has, right at the end of July, flipped the way we saw a person, a situation. We had new opportunities come through. We had certain people or certain things fall away from us. We discarded them. We outgrew them. We got sick of their shit and told them bye. You know, sometimes it's not always like, I hope we can still be friends. No, baby, I do not want to be friends. There's a lot of that with Venus's energy. Oh, Venus is going to tear some stuff up, and it's not everybody's going to like it, but all of it is meant to bring us more into balance. The thing about Venus and what she represents is that it's very much about the things that give us pleasure, things that give us happiness in some ways. It's about love and romance, of course, because it's Venus. That's the goddess of love. But there's also those other elements of how and we take in pleasure. And for some of us, pleasure has to do with food. And it has to do with like the tastes and the sensation and the smell. For some of us, it can be about song and art and music. And we have seen these shifts in all of these areas. I remember right before Venus turned retrograde, I saw on the news like the Jason Aldean thing, country music. And the Miranda Lambert thing, like she was tired of people like interrupting her songs to take selfies. And I'm saying that I didn't watch the whole article, like I didn't read all of it, so just, if I mispronounce part of that, I'm saying this up front. But I also understand what she meant, because you get to the point that you're tired of everybody being like so self-focused and all about them being the main character in everybody's life, that they disrespect other people and they don't share space well. And the thing about this Venus retrograde in Leo is that there's going to be a lot of hurt egos. People not getting their way. People being told that they're being selfish. People being told that they have been self-serving. And in a lot of ways, they're going to be getting told no. And what we're going to find through the month of August is that there's going to be this pattern of like restructuring, reorganizing, realigning, putting new things into place, because the old mindset and the old way of doing things and the old thought process, it doesn't work anymore. We are all very, very aware that we're all on a very big rock that's spinning in the sky, and there's only one rock for us right now. I don't care that aliens just came out. And it didn't just, I said this in the last episode too, by the way, the weekly episode. I'm saying it then, I'm saying it again now. It didn't just come out. I'm telling you, I saw the articles. That news came out back in like 2020, 2021 during COVID. It did. But we were so freaking busy with COVID. Nobody batted an eye. And even now, we just want to make memes and jokes about it. My favorite one has been like, that's so great. That's so great. Aliens exist. Congrats. We knew Aquariuses were here. We're about to have a full moon in Aquarius. That's how we start this video. Huh. Anyways. But that's great. That aliens exist. Can I have the Epstein list now? Like, that's the stuff that we really want to know, because we're all very, very aware, like, information is out there. We need to be able to get a new focus on certain bits of information. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of informational focus that's going to continue in the month of August and even into September. But part of what needs to come to the surface and what needs to get worked through is going to be uncovering half-truths, fraud, more of the malpractice, malfunction. There's going to be some more informational disruptions. And I'm saying it informational. I'm not just meaning in the sense of like communication and arguing, because I am talking about Mars and Mercury in Virgo. And our next Mercury retrograde is going to be in Virgo. And we literally are going to have the Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde going at the same time. And I might go into hiding. I don't know. I might not want to leave the house for a couple of days, for a couple weeks. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it all goes. I remember what it was like back in January whenever Mercury was retrograde at the same time that Mars was, and that was not fun. So I'm a little shaky on that one. Anyways, I'm just being so serious. Oh, there's something in the energy that tells me that we need more awareness, but it's necessary awareness. There's a lot more information and negotiation and contracts and news and filing releases. And I don't mean this in like the Trump situation. I mean like documents coming to the surface. And a lot of what's going to come to the surface in August, this is kind of a rant before I actually get into the chart part. A lot of what's going to come through in August is actually going to tie back to next fall. I've seen a very big pattern, and that is Mars is back in a Mercury sign. It has been for a couple weeks now. Mars entered Virgo back in July. But Mars is back in a Mercury sign. And we had Mars in Gemini for 8 months during a retrograde. And there was a lot of talking and trying to move things around and trying to figure something out. And a lot of things that occurred like during the last eclipse season, which was completely Mars ruled, and that hot mess Mercury retrograde during eclipse season, do not want to relive that one, has led us to where we're at right now. It's led us to certain things. It's put people into place, and it's put the right pawns back on the table that understand what needs to be looked at and what needs to be reviewed and what needs to be uncovered. There's going to be a lot of information tied to audits this month. This is going to be both in the macro sense, by the way, and in the micro sense. So macro, I mean big picture, real world, watch the frickin' news. Amazon has been threatening to go on strike. UPS has been threatening to go on strike. There was a huge negotiation back and forth with the UPS guys. And I know they've come to an agreement. Here's a big air quotation here. I know they've come to an agreement. However, what's the timeline of how long it's going to take for the bosses at hand to roll that out for everybody? I expect system glitches. And there could still actually be a strike whenever it comes to those logistical things based off of information and contracts and agreements. There can still be something that results in strikes later on based off of like something not panning out appropriately or somebody not living up to their word. This doesn't just have to be with the UPS thing, by the way, but there's definitely going to be some things that come to the surface and awareness of certain lies and manipulation. And I have very specific reasons why I'm saying that. So I want to get into the month, and then we'll go back to the rant at the end. Ooh, okay. So if you've watched the weekly forecast, this month starts on a full moon. This month will end in a full moon. I said that in that episode. Here's the full moon in Aquarius. I am not going to go super heavy on this full moon because I put a lot of emphasis on the weekly, and my plan is to do a full moon video pending everything continues to stay stable. I've had a lot of ups and downs and blood pressure, and I've had a lot of sleepless nights lately, so it's been fun. Anyways, August 1st, we have 3 major transits setting the stage for the month. Jupiter is in a trine to Mars in Virgo. So we have Jupiter right here in Taurus making this trine to Mars. This is an energy that's building up those last few days of July, and it is an energy that goes exact August 1st. 8-1, here it is, exact. What else is going to go exact this day? Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, and its opposition to Saturn. There is going to be questions, confirmations, signatures, negotiations, renegotiations. There's going to be some questioning in this energy. And considering this is occurring during the full moon in Aquarius, and Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, considering we're talking about a full moon in Saturn sign, we're going to start to see in the month ahead, in the lunar month ahead, which ironically enough this time around is truly the full month. When I say lunar month, I mean like full moon to full moon or new moon to new moon, depending on where we're at. So this is the lunar month ahead based off the full moon. Over this lunar month ahead, we're going to see people that should have been very, very responsible about things weren't so responsible. People that were supposed to be taking care of certain things didn't actually take care of them. People that were supposed to file and do certain things, plan certain things out, so to speak, they didn't happen. There can be other issues that arise that's going to be based off of communication. If you're dealing with people with health issues, then there can be some scans that start to happen right at the 1st of August. Scans, labs, techie things like that, because we're talking about a full moon in Aquarius, and the other ruler of Aquarius is Uranus and all the technology related to that. There's something news-wise that's meant to come through right around the 1st, whether it was the day before or the day or two after. There's some type of knowledge about this full moon that carries the entire lunar month ahead. And considering we've got Venus in that retrograde opposite, sign-wise, and whole house sign opposite of this, a lot of what's coming to the surface, what's loosening up, what's falling to the wayside, is some of the cute little layers of tissue paper that's been covering a sack of poo-poo. I don't know why. I felt like saying poo-poo. Anyways, moving along. That's the 1st. The next major transit is going to be on late of the 3rd, 4th. This isn't necessarily a major transit, but it's the awareness thing again. I want to put a special emphasis here that there were things that we agreed upon, that we talked through, that we were given, that was delivered, actions that were taken right around July 24th. So anywhere between like the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th. Like I'm giving it a few days of a time span, but the exact was the 24th. There was something that came through right around that time. Something that got revealed, something that was decided upon, something that was agreed upon, something that came through that is going to be a part of the conversations on the 3rd, 4th in this time frame. And it is in between the 3rd and the 4th that Mercury is entering shadow. That means when we get to the end of the retrograde, which is going to be in mid-September, we will be coming back to whatever information got revealed around this time. Whatever topics of discussion were starting around this time. Whatever this was, we're going to come back to it. But we're going to come back to it with new thoughts, new ways of handling things, new ideas, new topics, and far more information. And it's like Once we get back here, we'll be starting from scratch. But at this moment, we're just entering shadows. We have no idea what it's taking us towards. We're going to get more perspective as the month continues. Anyways, on August 6th, we get the sun square to Jupiter. Actually, Jupiter's actually squaring the sun. Jupiter is the one impressing an idea, a lesson, a thought, an intention, a hope. I'm going to say desire because of some of the other elements involved in this transit. The moon is going to trine Venus. It's going to square Pluto. Pluto's retrograde. Pluto's finally getting the nodes off of it. So Pluto's trying to depressurize. Venus is moving again. So she's depressurized. And it's like whatever was adding pressure to us, whatever we were stewing on those last few weeks of July, when we get to this time frame, we have the ability to state an intention, a desire, a hope, a plan of some sort that we're wanting to move forward with. Now, for some people, this isn't going to be the funnest day, and it's going to be stating, I have a desire for us to do this in the future, but it's not going to be in the next 6 months. Like it'll be in a year or 3 years or something. It can be that far out of a plan, and not everybody's going to like being told no, but there's definitely something very grandiose being stated. I do like this day for people that are professing their feelings or trying to take the energy of their feelings to the next level. If you're looking at relationship aspect, if it's a brand new relationship, remember we're in a Venus retrograde, that's temporary energy. That means hot summer loving fling levels of energy, not necessarily long-term relationship energy, just to be clear. And potentially, if it is long-term, it's going to be like 8 years. And then at the 7-8 year mark, we start to have issues. But we talk about that then, in 7 to 8 years. I said it, I know. All right, we're going to keep moving this along. We're going to get to the 9th. And on this day, Venus is re-entering her square to Uranus. Now, we've had a Venus-Uranus square, and every Venus-Uranus square is going to be different. The first one, Uranus was direct, Venus was direct. It's like Venus had somebody show up unexpectedly, something happened, somebody called in, somebody delivered something, you had an opportunity come through, and we thought everything was going to go one way, and it didn't quite do that. Venus turned around, and now she's coming back. And in some ways, Venus going back and re-entering squares with Uranus and re-entering the square with Jupiter later this month, in some ways, there's going to be like an energy of like calling somebody out on what they're doing or their behavior or their activity or their ideas, or it doesn't have to be calling somebody out. There can be this energy of like coming back around, like, hey, I know like you wanted to go do something last month and well, it didn't really happen. You want to re-talk about that? Because I think I want to go now. I think I want to do it. And of course, Uranus is not expecting that. So it's just like, oh, I thought I was the surprising one. Okay. And there is necessary, purposeful plans in the energy. And I'm saying this because Jupiter is in Taurus. It's in Venus' sign, making this trine to Mercury. And Mercury's in its home sign. It's in Virgo. It's in this exaltation place, a place where Mercury does very, very well. Long-term plans, long-term negotiations, how to restructure something, how something has been structured, going back over it and looking for ways to kind of shake it up a little bit, change it up a little bit. We thought things were going to go one way. Now we aren't working anymore. It's like coming back around going, do you still need help? Do you still want to do? Do you still want to go? Do you still have? Oh. And this is the time that Uranus is the one going, oh, I didn't expect you to come back. I didn't expect this to change. I didn't expect the adjustment. This is a necessary, helpful, adjustment-like energy. There can be some impetuousness in this energy too. And which is another thing that we will come back through retrogrades. Even though Venus is retrograde, Mercury will come back over this point too. But there's definitely an energy of like coming back to something, revisiting something, a prior plan that didn't come out, that didn't follow through, some other opportunity in the mix. Okay. Venus and Uranus, their square is actually going to go between the 9th and the 10th. It is the most exact later on the 9th going into the 10th. But just to know that you're going to be in this energy for a few days. That's the main thing right there. We're going to get to the 13th, which is the Venus Cazimi. So whenever we have a retrograde planet going through a Cazimi, and there's only two planets that can do this, and that is Venus and Mercury. Why are they called Cazimis and not necessarily conjunctions? Because they're the only two planets between the Earth and the Sun. So they get a special little term, especially when retrogrades, because that means they are coming back around and they're in between the Earth and the Sun. So it's like Sun, Venus, Earth. If they were direct, I would call them more of a conjunction, and they would be on the other side. They would be way over here, and then the Sun, and then the Earth. But no, Venus is coming into the heart of the Sun, and it is in between the Sun and the Earth. When Venus comes into the heart of the Sun, we have revelations, we have things come to light, we have things get announced, we have things get debuted, we get the results, we get the verdict, we get the opportunity, we get something very enlightening. Now, in the last Venus retrograde that occurred at December of 2021 going into January 2022, so a year and a half ago, when that Venus Cazimi hit, I remember that Cazimi was on a weekend. I don't remember if the 13th is on a weekend or not. I didn't look at that part. I apologize. It was on a weekend. It was super funny because I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of people, with some of my realtor networking groups. I still do these Zoom calls with them, and I still kind of enlighten them of the energies. So it was really an interesting time span because the things that kind of came to light around that time, or the way that I saw things coming through, I saw people talking about like their businesses and like what they were about to announce and the next chapter of their cycles and all these things business wise. But I also seen like a crap ton of people in my newsfeed over the course of one weekend. And I mean, it was over 30. New in the face. Like, they went and did their brows for the first time. They did Botox for the first time. They debuted a plastic surgery that had just occurred that nobody knew about. They revealed that they had gotten gastric, or they revealed their revenge bod because, BBL stuff. Sudden wild hair color changes of greens and pinks and purple and blue. There was a lot of things that came to light, whether it was a physical Venusian thing that came to light, or a financial thing, business-wise, that came to light. There were things there. Now, the other thing that can come to light, because it's not always sunshine and rainbows, scandals. Scandals, affairs, secrets can come to the surface. Venusian secrets can come to the surface. This is why I say affairs. Affairs can start during a Venus retrograde. They can come to the surface during a Venus retrograde. Considering this is in Leo and the Sun rules Leo, I'm going to go with the scandalous aspects. There's going to be something that comes to light that we become very aware of. It is revealed. It is understood. It comes out. It gets announced. Now, this Cazimi is also happening within a few days of the new moon. And it is also happening whenever the Sun and Mars are also going to interact with this Uranus. So I'm going to keep fast forwarding this to this new moon. Go back by hour. Sorry, guys. I'm moving the whole wheel. Sure. So, August 16th, I've got it at 4:05 a.m. just for where we're at right now. A few days ago, Venus squared Uranus. It was going back going, hey, you want to try again? You want to do this differently? You want, oh, sure. And we have the unexpectedness. And then we have these chain of events that follow. In the Sun Venus, we get revelation, we get clarity. There's something that comes to light. There's something that gets realized, something that comes to the surface. And then a few days later, we get this new moon squaring Uranus, while Mars is entering a trine to Uranus. There is something that we start to do based off the recent revelation, based off the recent things that have come to light. There is some people that are going to suddenly break free because whatever just came to light was not necessarily what they were expecting to hear. And we feel a shift in our independence coming through. Why do I say it that way? Because Uranus represents independence. It's the anarchy planet. I do not want to be ruled over. I do not want to have my independence taken from me. I want independence. However, within just a few days of this transit, Uranus will turn retrograde. So there's been some area of activity that has been based off of independence that is coming to an end. Right around here, it challenges that independent activity, independent nature, people being independent. Now, I remember last year when Uranus turned retrograde, it was right around the time that I ended up having to let my mom move back in because she was sick. For those that are new to listening to me, my mom is sick. She's dying of liver disease, and I'm trying to help her get through this. She was living separate from me until right before Uranus turned retrograde. And it was during that time we ended up with our first hospital stay and all this other stuff. And where I had been fiercely independent and she had been fiercely independent, this is my home, this is my space, your cat doesn't get along with my dogs are my babies, because they are. She wanted her space, and it's hard to give up independence. But once we got to the hospital stay and we realized just the decline and everything, the Uranus retrograde was like, okay, I'm not going to live alone with the dogs anymore, and you need somebody to help you. There was a shift in our independence, mine and hers. This is what I mean by shifts in independence. For some people, that's going to be like realizing that your spouse has been cheating and realizing that now the way that you've been doing things, or the way that they've been doing things for so long is going to have to change for them to try to win your trust back, if that's even possible. If there has been something that has been going wrong at the company, then what we can see is suddenly there's going to be a hard reckoning of reining people in and making sure we have, I'm going to say trackers. Just humor me. I'm saying like having more accountability with people. Like we just can't run around independently. There will be this pull on certain people. And it's going to cause a disruption because Uranus is in this trine to Mars. I don't want to be micromanaged. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with your drama. I don't want to do this. And there can be some frustrations. There's definitely a shift in what we know and what we understand, in the topics at hand, all that come through that middle part of August. There's a lot of communication, logistical things, and I start to feel a methodical slowdown literally after this new moon. Now, usually a new moon would actually bring forth like new energy that needs to come through, and there will be some new energy. I'm not denying that, but that new energy that comes through comes with slowdowns because we've had so much revelation, so many things coming to light, so much energy that is suddenly being understood. Actions from earlier this year, responsibilities that we thought had been handled from earlier this year, didn't get handled right. And that's going to make us very, very aware of certain things. Now, moving this along by day. So we're going to get to roughly August 21st to 22nd. Venus is coming back into her square with Jupiter. This is very interesting to me because I feel like Venus and Jupiter, when they come back together, it's like, in some ways, there's going to be some tension and there's going to be some arguments. And that's really more emphasized to me when it comes to Mars in this opposition to Neptune, because this is going on the same time frame. Neptune has been at this 27-degree mark of this manifestation degree that I've been talking about. I was talking about it more in like May and June. I haven't really talked about it so much in July because I have felt how much of that is starting to wane away once Venus turned retrograde. So I hadn't brought it up so much anymore. I feel like we're going to pick back up on some of that manifestation energy later. And by later, I mean next year. Just to be clear. We're realizing, again, something wasn't ready. Something wasn't right. We were only able to bring so much more together. And then even then, there's still things in the way. So we haven't cleared all the debris out of the way. We haven't fully prepped our workspace. Me and my little builder analogies. Mars's opposition to Neptune is going to have something in the financials. And I'm so specific on this for a reason. During the full moon eclipse that occurred in May of 2022, yeah, it's 2023, sorry. During that full moon eclipse in Scorpio that happened in May, that happened right when Mars and Neptune were coming into their conjunction. So the eclipse was day one. The next day, Mars-Neptune's conjunction really started. And because I'm a Scorpio rising, like I put a lot of emphasis on my meditation at that time, and that Mars-Neptune thing felt really telling. And I got a lot of downloads during that time in regards to like some of the things that I needed to start working on. Not necessarily why, but just like I got the first inkling of some of the things I needed to start working on. And I did. However, since that started, and I'm going to call that a cycle now, since that Mars-Neptune thing started, that little cycle, I've watched the Mars-Neptune energy. And every time we've had really harsh Mars-Neptune, last was the squares. And during that Mars retrograde, we had 3 squares. The first one in October when Mars was direct, the second one in November when Mars was retrograde, and then the third one in March. And if you've been listening to me for a while, March was a shit show. Certain things and decisions that got made in the middle of March between the 11th and the 22nd, 12th and 22nd, that time frame, literally the middle of March. There were things that came back around full circle. There were certain things that just came about that were brand new relationships, new commitments, new situations. When we get to this time frame right here in August, when Mars hits this opposition to Neptune, we get the next layer of that cycle. Now, what I have noticed in the financial world, specifically in regards to like crypto and stuff like that, crypto, stocks, things along this nature, we were going through another set of transits that were going on in April and May called a Contra of Jupiter and Neptune, where there was a lot of inflated dreams of like grandeur and thinking that everything is going to go right in the world and everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows and everything's going to keep increasing in price and it's never going to go down. And I don't know why that one mindset always comes back of somebody thinking, oh, it'll never go down again. It'll never be like it used to be. You're right. It will never be like it used to be. However, it's also not going to go the way that you're thinking either if you only think that things are going to go up and up and up and up. Eventually, gravity kicks in. Whether gravity is the universe grabbing a hold of you or actual physical gravity, something pulls us back. In Mars conjunction to Neptune, there was a lot of overzealous agreements that were made, ideas that were taken, financial things, because at that moment everything was so high. Airbnbs, like there was a record number of Airbnbs going out. There were so many people buying their first investment properties. And then if you were trying to buy a house, like you were having to pull out all of your retirement savings and you're borrowing from all of your family members to try to put money towards a house that a year and a half earlier was $100,000 less or $50,000 less. And all of a sudden, everything was very, very inflated. But as we got through the summer and certain things started to kind of like stretch to its finite point, we realized some things were too good to be true. And there were some reality checks. And some of those reality checks really came through that last Saturn-Uranus square that happened in September, that kind of ended in October. And it really made us very aware that certain things were not going to go the way that we planned. And then Mars kicked in, and with the squares to Neptune, there were certain lies and scandals that came to the surface. There were certain agreements that were made that whenever we realized them later, that they weren't valid agreements, that they should never have been that way. There were certain financial investments that came out to be Ponzi schemes. Certain people that had their money in certain stocks, like whenever the Twitter also with the Mars retrograde, Elon Musk and all that crap. Whenever you could just buy a blue star and duplicate accounts, like all of a sudden people's like full stocks like just crashed because somebody put out false texts making it look like it came from an official account. And then there was this episodes of just hard crash, hard crash, hard crash, hard hit, hard left turn, hard right, lie, manipulation, fraud, uncover, 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 uncover. Not everybody has had their stuff uncovered yet. Now we started to see the first little ripples of the next phase of what needs to be addressed. And that would have happened whenever Mars was in Cancer, so back during the last eclipse season. Because at the end of that eclipse season, Mars hit a trine to Neptune. Trines are triangles. So for some people under wraps now, during that time span, there were things that were promised, things that we realized, but we're trying to find the workaround. They're trying to find the workaround. They think that they're going to outsmart the system. They think that they're going to be able to pull wool over people's eyes and then be long enough until certain things can be fixed. I'm here to tell you some of those lies, some of the fraud, some of that manipulation energy, it comes back up on the 21st. And it's going to be harsher because it's this opposition energy. Mars in the physical, tangible mercurial sign is hitting this opposition to Neptune right as Venus, the ruler of beauty and love and goods in certain ways. Mercury also has a goods aspect. I'm more on the Venusian side of this aspect right now. Venus is going to square Jupiter, and it's going to be either something very much about the inflation, or it's going to be realizing that somebody hadn't been telling us the truth. And we're going to either see a ripple effect of more companies shuttering after this transit, or we're on the micro sense, we're going to be dealing with lies. We can also come back to medicinal things. There can be frustrations or hardships tied to medicine or tied to health that we're not aware of that are coming back around right here. The thing about this time span is that Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. What does Pisces rule in your chart? That's the important thing to ask yourself right now. Because Mars is testing one aspect of it, and Venus is going to be calling somebody's shit on the other aspect of it. And it's going to basically, for Jupiter, freeze Jupiter in its tracks. Neptune is already retrograde. Neptune's already going back over old stuff. It's been trying to fix something for a while, and it ain't been fixed yet. This energy right here is going to be resulting in some scrambling to try to fix something, to try to get something straight. And whatever that scramble is, it's tied to Mercury. Mercury rules communication. Your documentation, your ledgers, your logistical reports, your GPS, your mapping, all that physical documentation I'm talking about. Mercury turns retrograde right after this transit. So Mars opposite Neptune, Venus, Jupiter, like this is the most exact between the 21st and 22nd. Like we're building to it on the 21st, so we're going to be feeling it 21st, 22nd. But then on the 23rd, Mercury is going to turn retrograde. It's not retrograde at 4 o'clock in the morning. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. Just need to fast forward the chart. There you go. It happens in the afternoon, but I've got it out the screen at 5:05 p.m. Central Standard Time. Whatever comes through in the Venus square to Jupiter and Mars's opposition to Neptune really makes us aware that something isn't right. And again, this can have to do with plans, this can have to do with finances, that can have to do with a business, this can have to do with goods, this can have to do with accounting issues. We can have order issues. There can also be technology and computer issues that start to arise that make us realize that part of what needs to also be redone is not necessarily just the paperwork, but could also be the technology. Why? Because Uranus is about to turn retrograde too. This is August 23rd. Within 5 days, Uranus is turning retrograde. So Mercury, slow down. Venus is also starting to slow down. Mercury's turning retrograde. So Mercury just turned to go backwards. Venus is going to start to slow down. She will go direct on September 3rd. That is 12 days away from here. Okay? So within a 2-week span, slow down, turn Mercury. Venus, slow down. Jupiter is slowing down. Uranus is slowing down. In these 2-week span, between the 23rd and September 4th, I'm just going to say it that way, Mercury will turn retrograde, Venus will station direct, Uranus will turn retrograde, and Jupiter will turn retrograde, not in this order. Shift, turn, shift, turn, shift, turn, shift, turn. After the new moon in Leo, we start to feel things slow down. We start to see certain things slow down, see people slow down, see progress slow down, see processes slow down. There's a huge slowdown because the slowdown is tied to a reality check. For some of us, that reality check is going to be based off of the commitments and conversations that we have with other people in our world. For some of us, this is going to be about putting more of a plan together, a logical step-by-step. Here is the roadmap plan for whatever we're trying to start, whatever we've been taking on. We don't have all of the tools, we don't have all of the funding, we don't have all of the clients, we don't have all of the infrastructure. We've grown too quickly. We were overzealous. We don't have the funding because there was a huge accounting error and we're still trying to find out where the money went. I don't want another Enron. I hate that. I don't know why, but I just really picked up on an Enron thing. That sounds weird. I don't like when I get those. Okay. So, Venus square Jupiter, Mars opposite Neptune, Mercury turns retrograde. Boom, 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 boom. We feel the turns. We feel the slowdowns. We feel the pumping of the brakes. We feel the turnaround coming. We're getting the reality check. Now, Mercury is stewing at this 21 degree mark and will stay that way for a couple of days before it starts to go backwards. On the other thing that happens on the 23rd is that is also the start of Virgo season. Hi, the sun is now in Virgo. So again, once whatever comes to light, now our focus, the sun, the ego, is going to be on this critical, necessary, practical organization. There is going to be shifts in organizations that start once we get into Virgo season. For some people, that's just going to be streamlining things in your current business. For other people, that's going to be bringing in new people because you're expanding your business. And when you expand your business, and if you've been only self-employed for ever, and now you're actually bringing people in, now you're responsible for them. And you have to have a curriculum or procedures or a manual. You're going to have to do training with them. That can be this Mercury retrograde energy. But we don't get to continue going in just a forward motion. We have to go back over something. For some people, this will be training. For other people, this is going to be a full reorganization. Okay. It's not all happening on the 23rd, but it starts. It's the way we carry through the rest of August. Okay. On the 24th, we're going to have the exact Mars trine to Pluto. This feels enlightening. It's like, this is the two rulers of Scorpio, so let's be clear. There's something enlightening about this. Like, hey, just so you know, they're going to fix it. They're going to make it right. There's a different awareness here. And for Scorpio risings, like, you're going to be very much on the right page of what you're seeing going on with everybody else. You're going to be aware of both sides of the coin. I don't really want to say that with Virgo rising so much, or Taurus risings. Maybe Taurus risings. I could see it with Taurus rising too, actually. But part of what Taurus risings are seeing is because Venus is starting to really get her own level of a reality check. And Venus is Taurus's chart ruler, so that's why I'm saying that. Okay. Mars is going to trine Pluto. This is going to, again, happen on the 24th. That is when the most exact it is. There's understanding. There's actions that support healing, that support transformation, that helps for something to continue to be overcome and work through, that helps alleviate things from the past. And I'm saying it that way because Pluto is retrograde and will be for quite a bit longer. So there is something very helpful in this energy with Mars's trine to Pluto. It can still have a disruption to it, but there's something really helpful about it. Okay. Moving this along. On the 26th, we get the opposition of the Sun and Saturn. In ancient astrology, the Sun is the center of our universe no matter what, so that stays there. Not really worried about the Sun. I want to talk about Saturn for just a minute. I like to call Saturn Daddy Saturn. I really do. Because in ancient astrology, for thousands of years, Saturn was believed to be the edge of our universe. So everything was written to be done within the bounds of Saturn. Saturn is karma. Saturn is rules, it's boundaries, it's regulation, it's structure and structures in regards to like the hierarchy, but also like the structural elements, like physical structures, can be tied to Saturn. There is also authority. And I don't just mean this in the sense of like your boss. I also mean this in the sense of like president and the monarchies. There is an awareness and there is an insight to the responsible energy, whether that is the government, whether that is the president, whether that's monarchies. I know we don't have monarchies in America, but still, like, you know what the monarchy is. You know what a monarchy is, you should at least. There is something that becomes very, very much the focus, that is very much seen. Certain actions that certain officials have taken, certain government officials, they really come to light right here. And I think this is interesting because the Sun in this opposition to Saturn is happening right after the Mars trine to Pluto. And when this goes the most exact, the Moon is in Capricorn. So there's very much a focus on businesses, CEOs, authority figures, hierarchies. I didn't say that right. Anyways, you know where I was going with that. Monarchies, authority. There's a topic, there's a discussion that we realize we took it a step too far. And given that given Mars is trying to Pluto, that awareness energy, the supportive energy that, hey, I've pissed off enough people that something's going to change and something will be different. There's definitely an energy of that here, but there's also, with the sun's opposition to Saturn, it is seeing the condition. It is seeing the belief. It is seeing the bigotry. It is seeing the decline. It is seeing the lack of responsibility. The thing about Saturn and Pisces, and if you have a Saturn and Pisces natal placement, you're not going to like that I say this part, but I'm still going to say it. In the younger years of Saturn and Pisces people, y'all struggle to take responsibility for yourselves and anything and everything else. Unless you have Saturn in the first and you're a Pisces rising, like, you struggle to take responsibility. It's a common thing that I see with the Saturn in Pisces thing. And that's because Pisces is a mutable water sign. It's flexible. We're supposed to change. That means we have to change certain things in our responsibilities. And sometimes that's going to be about laws, and sometimes that's going to be about bigger things. There's some big stuff that's coming right around here. And some aspects of it are going to be based off of the recent events. Now, one example that we've all kind of seen in the news in the last few months, and actually that happened back during the last Neptune-Mars square, was the banks that went under, the ones in California. The one crypto bank that was up in New York, and then there was the two banks over in California, that they fell. Money was withdrawn so quickly, they didn't have the right risk managers in place that they should have had, and they made bad decisions that resulted in the banks going under, and the government had to step in. What can happen in the Mars-Neptune opposition, in that little shakeup, can be the next wave of something going under, and now the recognition of the responsibility, but we can also see waves of the government having to step in. An authority figure, a different authority figure stepping in. There's a lot to August, and I do feel like as we get deeper into August, we're going to see a lot of things on the more macro sense coming into play. Okay. Right after the sun makes this opposition to Saturn and says, what the F are you thinking? Why didn't you bring in the financial person? Why didn't you do what you was supposed to do? Mars is going to go, see ya, Virgo. And it's going to land in Libra. Now, if you've been listening to me for a while, you're going to hear me now repeat something I've said in the past, and that is, and this was specific to like the nodal video that I really said this. The first part of the nodes going through Aries and Libra, like the first little bit while Mars was in Virgo, we feel like some things get done. We feel like certain critical action is taken. But once Mars goes into Libra, it's not the same. It's not the same. Mars is in its fall in Libra. Like, it's not doing, no, it's its detriment. I'm sorry, fall is Cancer. This is its detriment. Mars does not function well in Libra. This is G.I. Joe in the Barbie dream house, okay? Mars isn't happy. What is all this pink? What am I supposed to do with all of this? I am the god of war. I am armed. I have machetes. Here's a feather. Here's a balloon. Here's some cotton candy. What the heck am I doing? Mars going into Libra is being hosted by Venus. And Venus is still retrograde. That means the actions that Mars is taking is confused. It's infuriated. It's frustrated. It's not doing well. Venus is spinning. She's slowing down. She's not to the full, like, stationing spinning yet, but she's just a few days off. It ain't gonna take very long. Venus is going to get to her spinning point, and as the spinning hits, so too will be more of the cutoffs and the releases and the letting things go and the things that fall away and the things that need to shift and the things that need to change, because we need to make space. And for the next 6 weeks after Mars is in Libra, which again starts on the 27th, so this is going to be more of what we start to deal with whenever we get into September than so much of where we're at right now, because we're about to wrap up the month. You will see again that cutoff energy, but this is not going to be the start of hot girl summer cutoff energy, like whenever Venus turns retrograde. This is going to be different. And there's going to be a lot of conversation. There's going to be a lot of mental activity. And there's going to be a lot of venting. And there's a lot of discovery, because Mercury, in its exaltation, is retrograde and is going to be going back over all these areas of the sky. The awareness of the words and the agreements and the reports and the audits and the scans and the verdicts and the laws, a lot of awareness of physical documentation, evidence. As we go back over those things, we start to realize more and more and more how imbalanced things have been. And again, this is going to happen both on the macro sense and the micro sense. Macro would be big picture, real world, watch the news, read the headlines, follow your Twitter. Micro is you, your little world, your little bubble, what's going on around you and the people around you. If you are Mars ruled, you're going to be a little sassy and salty once Mars goes into Libra. Okay, Scorpio rising, so me, I'm throwing myself under the bus. And Aries risings, hi, how you doing? If you're going through Mars perfection years, you can feel it too, but we're kind of frustrated and we're angry and we're not happy and we're not able to deal with our frustration the way that we would normally deal with it. We have to do it a certain way because there's an awareness with Venus being retrograde in Leo. More people are going to be aware of your actions. They're questioning your actions. They're questioning what's going on and behaviors and activities based off of this. And again, it starts the 27th and it will last for 6 weeks. So it carries us all the way into October. Congratulations. We all get to do it. Hold hands, sing Kumbaya. We're doing it together. Okay. Venus hits that 12-degree mark on the 28th, so now she's spinning. This is day 2 of Mars in Libra and Venus is spinning, because she will turn direct at the 12-degree mark. The moon will re-enter Aquarius, and as we get closer to the end of August, we're going to be wrapping up the lunar month that started August 1st. So think of everything that has had to be announced and said that affects so many people since August 1st that now we're kind of closing it out after the moon finishes its trek through Aquarius here. And then we get to the full moon in Pisces. And again, this is going to happen on the 30th. I missed one thing. August 28th. Later on the 28th, when the moon is in Aquarius. How ironic, I forgot about that. I did my notes on this a few days ago, and now I'm doing this again. So this is going to happen roughly between 9 and 10 in the evening. So I'm looking at Uranus right here, 23 degrees, 4 minutes at 9:05 p.m., but I bumped this 1 more hour, and now Uranus is retrograde, the moon is in Aquarius, so there's things from the August 1st full moon that carry us all through the month that starts to remove certain areas of independence, and when we get back to the moon being in Aquarius at the end of the month, that's when that shift in that independence is there. So if you've been living outside of your house, it could be very likely if you had to, if you lost your job or something like that, you might have to move back in with your parents, or you have to move somebody else in to help you cover the rent. Now you're not as independent because Uranus is retrograde. But there's something in that whole month time span that makes us very, very aware that we are having to adjust and change something based off those last few weeks that occurred. So again, I said that a minute ago, after we get past that new moon in Leo, like we start to feel like the effect of more things coming to light, which also creates slowdowns and turnarounds. Ambitions aren't as high once we get to the end of August. I'm not saying it's horrible. I'm saying we start to get a more realistic standpoint, practical, realistic, not so overzealous and overinflated in the ego sense. Okay. Bumping this by day, August 30th, right here, full moon in Pisces. This is a full moon semi-conjunct that Saturn. So here's the sun at 7 degrees of Virgo, here's the moon at 7 degrees of Pisces, and Saturn is at 3 degrees. So there is something also that ties into the sun opposite Saturn energy that leads into this full moon. We have to change something in our beliefs, we change something in our tradition, in our spirituality, in the responsibility that we're taking in regards to spirituality. There can be a shift in our elders that happens in the last few weeks of August with the sun's opposition to Saturn and now this full moon conjunct Saturn. And if it's tied to that, that still feeds into Uranus's energy of having something turn around because decline or things not working out as planned. Again, there's a lot more awareness in regard to things that are going on in our body, and we're suddenly a lot more aware like of certain actions that are being taken, and we're feeling the spinning effect of Venus. There can be outbursts that really start, and again, that can start around the 28th when Venus starts to station. Venus will actually turn direct on September 3rd. But there's a lot of transitional energy. Okay. So I said this earlier, like at the beginning of the month, I felt like going into like the Venus retrograde, like it was very petty, salty, petty, like I really, if I leaned into that ego energy, it'd be so easy to like call people on their shit all the time. And if I'm not able to do it astrologically and back my shit up, I don't call you out on it. You want to do stupid, crazy stuff, you do stupid, crazy, baby. That's on you. I just warn you. The decisions are yours after that. There's a lot of things, though, that I've been seeing in the news, whenever people have those TikToks and stuff, that like they make their personal TikToks, and then I have people will send them to me like, didn't you say some stuff with logistics? Like, yeah, I did. Yeah. And then I get those articles. We're going to see a lot of stuff in regards to technology that we're trying to roll out or debut, and now there's suddenly an issue and they need to get altered. That can be AI stuff too, just to be clear. There are things that we have been working on for so long, and now we're realizing the kinks in there, that we skipped some steps. There was some progress or process that we were trying to hit, and again, we missed some steps. And the recent things with like trying to do like that high level of inflation, I think that's going to come back and be a hard reality check that's going to hit later in August. There's going to be something tied to that. It's either going to be a dip in the market or it's going to be a huge loss in stocks. But there's going to be something that comes back through that starts to affect that financial sector at the end of August. And I am nervous about the logistics stuff too. I'm very nervous about what's going to happen with the strikes of like Yellow Truck, and I'm looking at the chart, by the way. I'm not sorry. I keep looking at the chart. The logistics with the Amazon and the UPS stuff, I feel like that's going to come back around, because even though they made the agreements, like something's going to come back through. And there's going to be some kind of hiccup. I hate saying that, but I do feel like that's going to happen. The thing about truck drivers and those delivery drivers, the ones that are doing all of our transport, I don't feel like truck drivers get enough respect. I really don't. Everything you have in your house, everything, your desk, your computer, the phone in your pocket, the car, when it got delivered to the car lot for the first time. I don't care if you bought it brand new or bought it used. The appliances in your home, the lumber to build your house, the brick on the outside of your house, the siding on the outside of your house. Everything in your home, from the groceries to the furniture to the material that actually made the structure happen, they were all delivered through freight. Whether that was a truck driver or a train conductor, the train thing's going to come up too. I don't fully know how. I know there's been a lot of train derailments, but the train thing's going to come back up too. That one I'm still kind of shaky. I haven't seen everything on that yet. But every single bit of that came through freight and cargo and delivery. Truck drivers don't get the same type of respect. They don't get the same type of days off. And watching crazy drivers, like, they're just truck drivers just deserve a lot more respect than they actually get, just to be clear. And for them to say, like, we want equal pay or fair pay, that makes a lot of sense. Because again, if every truck driver quit running all of a sudden, the grocery stores would run out of food, at least key food, like your milk, your bread, and stuff like that, eggs. They'd be running out very, very quickly. Furniture stores, very quickly. All of those things. Anything tied to logistics. There's huge shit coming in August and September that's tied to logistics. That's the word I keep hearing. And logistics is travel, but it's like your GPS travel. It is the delivery system. It is the routing and the delivery of your gasoline to the gas stations. Like, all of those things are very much logistical. And there's going to be some logistical issues that pop up. That's going to either lead to immediate hyperinflation, which could be what we run into at the end of August, or a rippling effect of something crashing in the market, which is weird. I know I'm back on this rant, and I said I'd get back to it at the end. Here I am. Oh, my notes for this part, I was like, August meditative rants. Like, truck drivers was the one. Technological, logistical, communications issues. There can also be like errors. People are getting new software in their jobs. They've just got new upgrades or something, and that can lead to slowdowns because everybody needs to learn a new thing. Or you can suddenly have like corruption in the data and in the files, and maybe they don't transfer. So it leads to malfunctions, and it leads to like later having to input everybody's individual stuff in there because things didn't transfer the way they were supposed to. There can also be breakdowns in technology, whether that is like, again, that malfunction aspect, or the physical breakdowns. Like, we just transferred everything to tablets. Now everybody in our job, we all walk around with a little tablet on our hand. But what happens when the Wi-Fi doesn't work? You're going to be able to pull up crap in your inventory because we've become so technologically reliant. There's no balance. And everything that we're imbalanced on, we're going to be very aware of at the end of August, because the little things are going to start to come through. And then it's going to carry into September. Let's see. The previous Mars-Neptune dates, I have those written down for us. So, oh, I missed May. No, I didn't. May, Mars-Neptune conjunction, so that during that full moon eclipse in Scorpio, that was May 17th and 18th. The Mars-Neptune square was October 6th through October 11th of last year. That was the first one. And that one, Neptune was retrograde, Mars was direct. The second one was November 18th through November 22nd. So right around Turkey Day, like right before Turkey Day. Mars was retrograde and Neptune was retrograde. So it was like Mars turning around going, hey, you said this is going to go a certain way. Where's the stuff? Where's everything? No. And it's like catching somebody in a lie. And then there was the March timeline that I discussed, but there were so many other things going on in that March timeline. Earlier I said it was like March 11th through the 22nd, but the exact of the Mars-Neptune square was March 14th through the 15th. And then, of course, we've got our conjunction coming up on the 22nd, 23rd. Necessary organization, necessary structure, building structure, reworking the organizational aspects and the structural aspects. New orders need to be put into place, but the new orders won't put into place. They won't come into their placements until we can reveal what isn't working. The thing is, if you've been in the right job for long enough, like, we all know the workarounds. Like, okay, well, this doesn't work properly, so the way you get this machine to work is you pop your hand, like, right at this, if you hit it right here, whatever is stuck in the vending machine will fall down. I know I'm talking about a vending machine. We know the workarounds. We can hit something just right. We can bypass this issue. We can put in this code. We can do this because we know the workarounds. But there shouldn't have to be workarounds. And ultimately, for some of us, not all of us, but some of us, the workarounds, the things that we thought we were just maneuvering through, is what created the accounting issue. It's what's created the logistical issue. It's what's creating the issues in the orders and the order forms that need to be fulfilled. We knew the workaround, and it worked for us for a time, but now we're also going to see the ripple effect. For others, it's been mismanagement and misappropriation all the way through. And the next phase of accounting errors are going to come up too. It's going to be an interesting month, guys. I know if you listen to the nodal video, like I said in the beginning of it, like the first few months until after we get through the Mars rebirth, and the Mars rebirth is not going to happen until like November 17th or 18th, that depending on your time zone. For me, it was like midnight on the 18th, so for some people that's going to be the 17th. But that's when Mars is going to go through its rebirth, and we're going to start a whole new Mars-Sun cycle. But right now, Mars is closing out a cycle. Mars is trying to make waves and make space, and after Mars goes through its rebirth, then the full effects of what the North Node in Aries, we're going to feel it then. But these few months leading to that timeline, necessary shakeups, necessary information being brought to the surface, necessary structural things being rocked, shaken, unnerved, uncovering. This allows for the reorganization. This allows for the new structure and the new vibrancy and the next phase that leads to balance and leads to new levels of productivity. Before we can get to the new, we have to make space. That means clearing out the old. We're really going to have an idea by the end of August of some of the things that are going to get cleared out. And then as we go into September and October, we're going to be dealing with the clear out. And after the clear out, more so in October, we will deal with some of the solutions. And those solutions are going to be tied to Venus and the next eclipse season. Because if the last eclipse season being completely Mars ruled, we get the glory of the next eclipse season being completely Venus ruled. And that's going to be helpful. But before we can get to the helpful stage, we got to figure out what's not working. We got to make space. We got to deal with the exact going on right now. We got to deal with the moment. And many of us know that the things that we've been dealing with, the things that we've been working on, the things we have been doing for quite some time, they haven't been working. Because we've been having to do the work around, and we've been having to do some shoddy little repairs. I'm a country girl, man. Get that barbed wire out and the zip ties and the duct tape, and we can make that fence work. You just got to have enough bale and wire. After a while, some point, we got to realize that the fence has to get replaced. Guess what? When the cattle get out, you're going to see just how much the fence needed to get replaced. and how much your Band-Aid fixes have not been working. And that's going to come by the end of the month. If you know that inkling of certain things being decompressed and destructurizing and falling apart a little bit, if you know that's coming, it's going to make it a lot easier to deal with, because every time that little thing pops up, you'll be like, oh yeah, she told me. Yeah, I got that warning. I remember that was going to happen. Yeah. If you know it's coming, it's easier to prepare. And I'm warning you to prepare. If you have money in certain shaky financial sectors, hey, move your money. Not the first time I've had to warn people of that. This is the most public way I've warned it. Move your money. However, just understand, we're moving towards rebalancing. And it is in this month, in all of these retrogrades, that we see the need to slow down and reaffirm, repurpose, redo, reevaluate, restructure, and it will be in September that we see a lot of the re's. But we get a glimpse of what those things need to be in August. Okay, my loves, I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you to all the new people that have been tuning in. If you have questions, if you have concerns, message me through the Spiritually Bougie page. If you have been referred to me by somebody that has already been my client for quite some time, tell them to start a group chat with me, you, and them. I'm happy to talk to you that way. I like the introductions. I like to know who sent you. I'm weird. Once I know who sent you, then I usually just trust you from the beginning, but I always get weirded out whenever I get just random messages, so... I'm trying. I gotta do better myself, I know. But I own that, so that's what it is. But I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for everybody that has started to tune in. And I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.